Tara.
I'm Ryan.
We love Disney movies.
So we decided to watch them all, from Snow White
to Frozen 2 and beyond. Each episode will watch a different Walt Disney Animated Studios film and tell you all about it.
Did we like it? Does it hold up? Who's our favorite hero?
Or villain.
We'll give you history and fun facts about each movie.
And sometimes we'll invite our friends to watch along with us.
So put on your tiara
or your evil crown
and join us on our adventure.
This is Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to another edition of Childhood Trauma Theater for Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries. Tara looks like she might be ready to sing the NeverEnding Story theme song. Are you gearing up to it, or am I making that up? You were singing before we came in.
I don't know the words.
Oh, okay.
Do you know the words?
Yes.
Sing it.
So we today did the NeverEnding Story.
I'm not gonna do it.
Nope.
I just know the first two words, and then I can hum the melody. But
yes. So we have chosen to do 1984's The NeverEnding Story.
Well, we've promised to do NeverEnding Story for like 4 episodes.
Yes. So it felt like it was. I think that might have been another reason we were kind of like. I thought it was all right, like, rewatching it, but I think that might have been part of it as I built it up as, like, we gotta do NeverEnding Story. And then we did it, it was like, oh, yeah, this is really just, like, a series of weird scenes.
And sadness. A lot of sadness.
If you don't know that the end of the movie is so triumphant, this is the most depressing movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's one of those movies we talk about sometimes. I think we've referenced this. I always think of your sister giving the example with your nephews where they showed them Goonies too young.
Yes.
And they were like, now you have to see it all the way through
so
because...
Sloth is a hero.
Yeah, and I feel like this is similar where, like, if you started watching it with your child, whether they were of appropriate age or not, that you really have to be like, you have to see it through.
Well, and also you kept going like, I remember parts of this, but there's big things you don't remember. And I'm like, well... When I watched it, I never rented this movie. It was just
probably
on and I watched it from wherever it was. And then I kind of like went back and pieced together. There's a lot of movies, I think, like that from the 80s and 90s.
And once you...
Kids, you used to just have movies on television. You couldn't rewind it or have TiVo. I think even TiVo's an old reference at this point.
Yeah.
But like, you didn't have Netflix or streaming where you go, I'm going to start a movie now. It started at 2 p.m. And if you weren't there at 2 p.m. to watch it, you missed the beginning.
Well, and it had commercials most likely too. But once you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's probably how I did see this one, was I saw it on television whenever it was on.
So this might have been the first time you've watched it beginning to end.
Yes, or in a very, very long time. Either one. Yes.
Going back to my sister, because my biggest memory about this movie
I know this
my
memory,
sister,
yeah.
So it was, my sister's about 26 years older than me. No, I'm just kidding.
No, she's not.
She's 10 years older than me. So when I was a kid, she was in college.
I thought she was 11 years old.
10, 11. It's 10 and some change. So, because I was born in October and she's born in January, so that's
I see.
Okay. So she came back from college, or maybe it was law school or something, and I just remember her. It was like her first day back, and we were in the living room, and I was sitting on the floor,
like
in front
a
of the
spring
TV.
break or something.
And she was just telling some story. You know, she was an adult to me at this point. She was speaking like an adult. You know, she was like, "Oh, I did this," and blah 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 blah, and like really just. I remember it being just her telling some story. NeverEnding Story was on TV that day. It was the scene from the Swamp of Sadness, where Artak, spoiler alert, the horse just dies. And she's talking, blah, 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 dead stop. Is that horse gonna die? And just started like bawling, like real just fat tears.
Yeah.
And I was turned around, I was like, you weren't watching this. Like, what's this horse's name? Like, you have no, she's like, oh, the horse is gonna die. And like, it was just, I just will never forget that, her having no idea what movie it was, what was happening, just realizing a horse was about to die on screen, and she was not happy about it. Now, going back and rewatching that scene, because I think that's the scene that everyone was like, oh, you got to do NeverEnding Story
for that scene.
For childhood trauma.
Yeah.
That scene was really, like, I think it affected me now more than it did as a kid. It was really
rough, and, like, it's a slow death. It's not quick, and it happens in such, like in the first, 15, 20 minutes
Right.
of the movie?
Yes.
So it happens very early on, which I didn't remember that.
Right.
And I didn't really remember the scene. I knew that the horse died, but I couldn't remember like how
Right.
or when or
and
anything.
it's just a horse on like an elevator being lowered into a mud bath. Like, I'm sure it was like, all right.
Well,
but it was
but-
just sitting there staring, and then Atreyu's like looking down the barrel of the camera going, Artax!
But
and
the
like
thing
screaming.
is Atreyu at first is like, well, first of all, Atreyu's got two speeds. He's got like just talking normally, and then he's got, but I don't know what's going on. Like he's got like those two very.
He's
like,
either yelling. I mean, he's a kid.
Yes.
That's like, we're talking about a guy who did like, before this, he played Boxy on Battlestar Galactica, which I believe was the robot. Like, it was
Yeah,
like
but he definitely is like two speed only, and
Yeah.
he goes from like shouting and screaming and calling the horse stupid to like sob. Like it is a lot of emotions.
Well,
and
the
I get it. But
so in the book, Artax can talk, and the whole thing is the Swamp of Sadness makes you like depressed.
yeah,
and in
I
the-
think they got that point across.
in the book, Artax is like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to stay here and
Oh
start
my
sinking.
gosh.
And they're like,
That's
no. And
even
so he's
worse.
it's because that's what happens to Atreyu after he talks to Morla, the Ancient One, is he's starting to like give up and just sink into the swamp. And
That's
the
even
point.
worse.
Yes.
I think having him talk.
Yes.
So.
Well, right. Before we go into anything else, we'll get into some other stuff, but there's something we have to address that I've never ever seen in as many things I've never heard anyone do. Oh, no. We're going right into it. And that's the first 2 minutes
hold
of
on.
this movie.
I would like to say like the year it came out and when the
we're
book
going
came
into
out.
this right now. No.
Okay.
Because
all right.
because we have to talk about the dad putting an egg into a blender with some orange juice and just drinking it.
But I like that you stole my thunder. I'm the one who saw it. You weren't even paying attention to the dad. I was the one who was focused on it.
You went, why do you put that egg in the blender? And when I looked and paid attention to it, he was blending the egg. So I went, oh, maybe he's trying to scramble it.
And I was like, that's kind of
And
weird,
you're like,
but okay.
cool. And then he pours it into a glass and starts drinking it. And we were like, whoa.
So then we
had
rewound
to
it.
back up.
And he takes orange juice out of the fridge that looks like it was fresh squeezed at some point because it's in like a pitcher.
Right.
And then he has one single egg and he pours the orange juice and the one egg into the blender, mixes it up and drinks it. And that grossed me out more than when you watch Rocky just drink the raw eggs. I'd rather him just drink raw eggs, I think, not mixed up. I don't know why, like, blending the egg and then thinking that it's frothy, but like it's OJ.
Frothy got to me.
Yeah, and then the OJ's mixed in? I don't know. It was weird.
I was just like, what does he do? Like, it was...
I was obsessed. I could not. I was so fixated on it. I could not like even pay attention to what they were talking about.
Have you ever seen? I think it's Mr. Nanny with Hulk Hogan.
No, but I know.
You know the scene where he's driving along the side of the road, and in the background, a guy just hurls a dog into the river.
No, but I've listened to.
It's on How Did This Get Made?
So I've listened.
And you
to that
watch it, and you're like, what? This is what this felt like. Like we were never supposed to notice what he was doing.
Yeah.
But he actually drinks it. It's no cut. So I'm like, oh, that actor who's. I forgot the actor's name, but he plays Major Dad. He's in a bunch of stuff. He was in House of Cards. He was in...
because he cracks the egg, so it's got to be a real egg.
I mean, the amount of work in 1984, year this movie came out, they would have to do to create a fake egg that cracked and did all
and
that.
have it be something that's not an egg on the inside.
For a scene that no one ever noticed. But then I went...
Well, it's in the first 4 minutes of the
Yes.
film, and you said... There's some weird business in the first 4 minutes of this film.
Yes.
Direct quote. Because the other weird thing is the kid with, I don't know what you call it.
You just cross all your fingers together until they're all crossed on the one next to it.
Yeah, but the way he does it, it's pretty quick, and neither one of us could do it.
Yes.
Of course, we tried it. So listeners, let us know if you can do what he does.
But so I looked up online, like, did people used to drink orange juice and an egg? And the first thing that popped up was a Quora question. Was it common for people in the 80s to blend a raw egg with orange juice? Similar to the breakfast Bastian's father made in the NeverEnding Story. And apparently it was something that people said they used to do because, like, I read an article where it's like a really good breakfast is like 1 piece of whole grain toast, 1 egg, and some orange juice, and it like
all
covers
separate.
Yes.
Like you have you cook the egg, maybe you put it on the toast, and you drink the OJ.
It's the 80s. He's a busy businessman. He needs to be on the go. He's barely got time to tell his son, don't imagine anything. Keep your feet on the ground.
He says,
I know your mother just died, but can you please turn your math homework in on time?
I couldn't. I couldn't with the way that the dad was talking to him after I was done obsessing over the weird egg OJ drink. But the dad was just real sad, and then you find out
and you don't have
about
time
his
to
mom.
cook an egg, but you need to get all the nutrients and protein an egg has. Why not just dump it in your orange juice?
Hard boil the egg ahead of time the night before, and then just pop
He's
it
not
in your
there
mouth
at
on the
night.
way
He's apparently
out.
working late hours because he doesn't have time to find out that his son has been reading a book
spending all
after hours in the creepy attic of the
elementary school.
This movie, rewatching it as an adult, is a lot of questions.
It's a lot. And I feel like I was always focusing on the thing they didn't want you to focus
Right.
on. I was always obsessed. But we should say it came out in 1984.
Directed by Wolfgang Peterson. This was his
okay.
first English language movie. He was the director of Das Boot, and afterwards directed The Perfect Storm,
I love that movie.
Air Force One.
Yes. check.
Directed a lot of movies
Check
you
all
like.
the movies that I love.
This is a weird starting to this.
Point. But the book was 1979?
1979, the first English language adaptation of it, because it was in a German book, was the year before, 1983.
I see.
I read the book, and the interesting thing I liked about the book, or at least the edition I had, I don't know how they did it originally, but the one I had was there were 2 different color fonts.
Oh, yes, you told me this.
It's kind of like a kind of a light reddish, almost pink, and then green, and it would, I think the red was Bastion, what was happening to Bastion, and the green what was happening in the book Bastion was reading.
I think that's a cool way visually. I mean, I guess if you're colorblind, maybe not so much, but
I think in other things they do, maybe a different font.
Yeah, or bold
which
one
is
and not the other.
easy to do, back in 1979, that's 2 different typefaces probably, or colored ink or something that's not easy.
But I think it's a cool way to get that across, to get both worlds across, and then when they come together,
yes, The other weird thing is the book is 26 chapters long, and every chapter the first word starts with the next letter of the alphabet.
Oh.
Which I remember that being very weird, because I was like, what are they going to say when they get to Q? And it was quietly. And then X was some creature they'd made up.
And we said that the actor who plays Bastion was 11, but we don't know how old Bastion's supposed to be in the story, do we? I guessed 8, but I'm terrible at guessing children's ages.
I don't know. I don't think I read anywhere where it said
he's definitely elementary school age.
Yes. But so he essentially starts off, and like we're saying, his dad's like, your mother has died. You need to keep your head out of the clouds.
You basically need to be an adult. It's time to be an adult. Yeah.
And so he starts walking to school in an unnamed Midwest town, it feels like.
Yeah, well, city. It feels city to me.
But here's the thing: when they zoomed out, so it was British Columbia, is what it was.
Oh.
But when they zoomed out, those buildings were 4 or 5 stories tall.
Yeah,
max.
I guess that's true.
It felt like Champaign. That's kind of what downtown Champaign, Illinois, looked like.
But I wrote 3 bullies. These kids throw them in a dumpster. This movie is awful.
Yeah, still these are some of my favorite things to watch with Tara, because she has such a emotional and vocal reaction to things that she's like, oh my goodness, just saying that.
Also, that dumpster was very high. I find it hard to believe that those 3 bullies were able to just very gracefully just scoop them all up and drop them into that dumpster.
It looked like a wrestling move where someone throws someone, and you can tell the guy they're throwing is like, whoa, and jumps as well. Yeah. So he goes to hide him in a bookstore, and we talked about this. In the book, that character's name is Mr. Coriander. In the book, so it's Bastion Balthazar Bucks. And the guy who owns the store is Carl Conrad Coriander. They all have these weird multiple names. Alliterative names, yeah. And this guy comes in, and he's smoking a pipe, or is he smoking a cigarette? I think he's smoking a pipe.
I think he's smoking a pipe.
Yes.
But
and he's like, go away, I don't like children.
I don't even know if he's smoking a pipe. Did we just add that in there? Because we were talking about how bad his breath must
This man's breath smells like black licorice,
Stale, like old coffee.
Old. And I'm not
coffee.
talking necessarily just about the character Mr. Coriander. Like that actor who I don't know what else. He looks like the dude from Fraggle Rock at the beginning, like Doc from Fraggle Rock, like who was like they lived in his house or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And like stale cigarettes.
Like that guy just.
Which is why I think we made up the fact that he was smoking. I don't think he was. I think that was
like Ricola. Like he sucked on Ricola a lot.
There's like a little like not mothball, but you know that like dusty book smell because those books are like so thick. Like that's definitely in there too.
Yes.
But he's a curmudgeon.
Yeah, and he's like,
sure.
you won't. This book's too much for you, and like pretty much. So, do you think he knew he needed to get that book?
I think once he heard, he's like, I've read Tarzan and I've read this and 20,000 Leagues.
Yeah.
I think once he starts naming all these like very immersive fantasy stories, like I think Treasure Island is another one. I think then he's like, oh, this kid needs this book.
So is he like the caretaker? Like when he reads the book, is it just like the daily bullshit going on in Fantasia?
I don't know.
And then,
it is
like,
interesting.
It's just like, and everything was going fine and blah, blah, blah. And then he like sneezes and like everyone hears a sneeze or something.
Yeah, I don't know. And then he like goes to get the phone call, but it seems like he did that on purpose. Like he left the book there and was excited that the kid steals the book, but he does leave a note that says he'll bring it back.
Yes, he was talking about selling something for $300 to $375. I'm like, what book is that?
Probably a rare copy.
I guess
or first
I'll need
edition.
a few days to get it. And I was like, what is he? I wish I knew what he was talking about. And like, so then Bastian heads back to the school and there's a math test. He decides to skip it and sneak off to the school attic.
Hold on, but here's the thing. I have some issues with this whole part.
Right.
First of all, why would you keep the attic key next to the attic door that like is the height for children to grab the key?
I will say it looked like
it was
had been broken. Like
I guess it did.
To me, for some reason,
like a fire alarm.
It looked like that told the story of Bastian knew where it was. Like maybe he'd gotten it and he'd hid it there.
Maybe.
And that's where he'd been whenever he was like late to class or whatever. So he was hanging out in that
attic. But let's talk about that attic for a minute because there's like three different skeletons.
So I think the direction, the set dressing direction was we need a creepy attic, and no one bothered to say it's in an elementary school. So someone was like, yes, a creepy attic. We'll put 8 different stuffed animal heads and a
skeletons and
a map
mannequins
to pirate's treasure.
Yeah.
And like, it was just like all this random.
It was a very large attic with a lot of weird. I can't curse on this.
I'll bleep it out. I said bullshit a little while ago.
With a lot of weird.
Yeah.
Like just a lot of weird
random stuff.
And then at one point he lights candles with a match, and I'm like, I think he's too young to be like using matches. But
I pointed out it was
like,
1984 German film, so like
true.
there's a good chance he was smoking cigarettes.
But yeah, the attic was. I couldn't stop obsessing over what was in the attic.
Yeah.
I just kept looking every time he was reading the book. I was looking in the background.
And it's funny to me because as someone who enjoyed this movie a lot when he was a kid, I kept like having just these disconnects. Like if you're like, yeah, the attic with all this weird stuff in it, I'd be like, oh yeah, the attic from NeverEnding Story. But like I never am like, oh yeah, that's supposed to be in a school. It's just like in my brain, it's like
separate.
That's where
he reads the story.
Bastian goes. And then remember when he tried to like run downstairs because he got scared at one point? There was like that weird cage.
Yes, it was like a. So what it reminded me of. So our auditorium in high school. We're all
okay. So it does remind you of something from a school.
So, but high school,
right.
Like we're much older. There was a cage, not quite like that, not with bars, but like almost like fence, and that's where like all the lighting and different. There were certain things like in there.
Well, where in high school did you keep
controls.
your stuffed heads and skeletons?
That we didn't have, but we did have like the 1 or 2 people who like were in charge of all the lights and everything did walk like the rafters, the catwalk above the stage. Okay. but there wasn't a like full attic of storage that we had access to.
Like I said, I think there was a disconnect between what the attic was and what the set design team was told.
Yeah.
Because I think they did a great job at making like a creepy, weird attic you wanted to like get in and put a blanket over your head and read a book and like by candlelight.
Yes, I agree. I just like couldn't get over that it was in an elementary school and I couldn't like disconnect from that. Like it would make more sense for him to run home and like
hide in the attic
to where like his dad didn't know that like the attic existed, and like maybe since his mom's died he's like brought stuff, you know what I mean, like he's brought weird stuff he's found on his way home from school up into the attic.
Or more like his dad was, like I said, was working late and like he was kind of a latchkey kid, and that's why
so to me it makes more sense for him to be in his own home, but like in a part where like his dad doesn't really know he's there, versus like all of a sudden like we're skipping, I mean we're not really going to go beat for beat with this plot, but all of a sudden the bell rings, it's the end of the school day, and immediately all the lights go out in the school, and then he's just in the attic during this thunderstorm.
Well, see, that's also what I was talking about. Like, this movie feels like it's really written for kids.
Yes, I would agree with that.
It's not like...
Because kids aren't going to focus on those things.
Yeah, the kids are going to... Like, when I watch this, I was like, oh, yeah, I want to... Like, I think I wanted to go into our school attic. Like, our school didn't have an attic. Like you said...
And it may have, but you didn't have access to it.
But, like, I'm like, oh, if that's what it's like, what a creepy, weird, like, place. Yeah. And it's probably just, like... filing cabinets and extra chairs and like that's what should have been up there.
The other thing I remember too, this weird tangent, but my high school band director, I don't know that we ever went up there. I think we knew where it was, but there was like an access point in the ceiling for him to get up to the roof, and so that's how he would watch us to march. He'd get up higher onto the roof of the school. But again, that wasn't like willy-nilly anyone had access to that.
But like that, and then skipping forward to the end, we talked about like Falkor just appears on the streets of Vancouver or whatever it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and they don't really address that.
And I was watching, I go, we said, did the background actors like react to it, or was it something? And they do. So clearly there was a dragon in the streets of whatever town it was supposed to be.
And they say like he made all these wishes and then he went back to the ordinary world. But I was like, some of his wishes were in the ordinary world.
Yeah, and you also said, why didn't he wish his dead mom to see his dead mom again?
Yeah, like they make so much of a focus of this kid is having a hard time. He's not going to class. He's getting immersed and lost in stories. And I would imagine that's because his mom passed away. And maybe his mom read those books to him. I like added that layer. A lot of that
is before he gets to the attic and starts reading the book. And to me, that's why it didn't resonate with me, because I think I started this movie a lot where the rock biter, the night hob, and the racing snail guy.
Yeah, but I was just like, there was so much focus even on his mom, and at one point when they're like, oh, we need to find
a name,
an Earth child and a name, and he's like, oh, I wish they'd pick me, I'd give them my mom's name. So he thinks of his mom's name, and then at the end it's Moonchild, which is not.
So it's 1984, and he's about that. So he would have been born, if he's 11, that means he'd been born in the early 70s. So
do you think her name could have been Moonchild?
She was a hippie.
I guess.
She's into Moonchild, and like Major Dad, the reason he's so stiff is she had like really brought him out of his like, authoritative, that.
And then when she passed, he kind of went back to buttoned up, like very like
because
cut himself off.
Moonchild.
I like that.
There we go. That's why his mom was named Moonchild. But that's the other thing is like, to me in that movie, there's only that one line was my mom had a nice name, and so I don't think I really know his mom was supposed to be dead for most of that movie, because I feel like most people I knew like missed the first 15 minutes because you never watched. You turned it on and went, ooh, it's on, and kept going.
Yeah. Who is your favorite of the like side characters?
I liked the stupid bat. Like, I love when you keep returning to him as a stupid bat.
Yeah.
But it's the bat that keeps falling asleep. Like, I don't think the bat was stupid. The bat was just tired.
Just tired. Maybe he's narcoleptic.
Yeah, like he just liked to sleep a lot. But I also liked the night hob, who was like the guy who was riding the bat and his reactions to the bat.
I liked is it Morla?
Yes,
I liked Morla the turtle or tortoise. Because I loved what did she start Well,
not
it does
that it
not
matters.
not that it matters. It kind of had like an Eeyore cadence to it
she
a little bit.
had been living in this swamp of sadness for 1,000 years.
That's
but
true.
But couldn't like sink far enough to drown, I guess. So she was just depressed.
I didn't really put that together.
Yes.
That is true. I also liked Urgle.
The gnomes.
Is that her name? Urgle? Something with a U.
Are you talking about the two?
Yes, the woman and the man.
The herbalist and the scientist.
Yeah, I liked them
I thought they were really funny. You like made a oh when she like gave Falkor.
Oh yeah,
a shot.
I didn't like that.
Oh, I wanted to talk about. I haven't really been looking at my notes. I've just been talking about how weird this movie is. But I wanted to talk about how like the many stories of this kid almost getting hurt.
Yes,
Noah
I would
Hathaway.
like to hear this.
Noah Hathaway was hurt twice, which is already an incorrect fact because there's another fact later about him getting hurt. Twice during the making of the movie. While learning to ride a horse, his horse threw him off and stepped on him.
Oh my god. That could like kill you. Like that puts people
depending
in comas.
where they step.
Yeah.
While shooting the drowning sequence in the Swamp of Sadness, his leg got caught. His leg got caught on the elevator and he was pulled underwater. Oh. He was unconscious by the time they brought him to the surface.
Oh my goodness. Now, how old was that actor?
Like 14.
Wow.
And it's Germany, so that's probably why I got away with some stuff. But that really changed the way I watched this movie because we were talking about when he's about to get blown away by the nothing.
Yes.
We're also very much... if you have not watched this movie and you're listening to this, you're probably like, what in God's holy name
Yeah, you probably should watch
about?
it first because we are jumping all around.
So real quick, the idea is... This world of Fantasia, this fantasy world, there's this thing called the Nothing that is destroying everything.
It's taking over everything.
Now, what it is like this one character goes, we used to have this lake, and then the lake disappeared. And they're like, oh, did it dry up? He's like, no, there was nothing. Oh, there was a hole? No, a hole is something. This was nothing. In the book, they refer to the Nothing like you going blind. Like when you look
no longer can
it's
see
not
that.
darkness or
Yeah.
anything or those clouds or anything. It's you look over there and there's just... You can't see anything.
Yeah.
But everyone comes to the middle of Fantasia to ask the childlike empress to help them, who's the ruler of Fantasia. She is sick, so she gets Atreyu to go find a cure for her. It becomes linked to the Nothing, and it's like Atreyu's running around trying to find it. Blah 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 blah. He runs into a bunch of weird characters.
But the main character he runs into,
it's Falkor.
Hero, yes.
Yes,
I love Falkor.
Yeah, Falkor is great, and we'll go into that in a sec. But you can ride him at.
I was so pumped.
Bavaria Film Park, Munich, Germany.
And is that still true today? Like you could ride him
yeah.
today? Because I now want to go there. That needs to be on our list.
Let me tell you real quick about the other time he got hurt.
Oh, I forgot there was a third time.
Noah Hathaway almost lost an eye during the fight scene versus Gamork. One of the claws on his giant paws poked him in the face. The robot was also so heavy that he lost his breath as well when he was hit to the ground by it. They only made one shot due to the risk that he would get seriously wounded.
Do you think he was compensated for like injury?
I don't think he did much acting afterwards. He now apparently runs a tattoo parlor with his wife. And just goes to conventions.
I bet he's got some crazy tales that are not in news articles if he had those 3 incidences. Falkor, I love, which I feel like everybody loves Falkor. But I just really appreciated the design. I liked the textures between the scales and the fur, and I just thought that they did a really great job with that. So I just wanted to give a shout out for that. I don't know if you had anything specific.
Yeah. He's an interesting design because he's definitely got like kind of an Asian dragon feel where he's like doing that. But and
the way he flows.
Well, my favorite part about Falkor is his roar, which is just... It's just a guy doing that noise. There is no roar. It's just like a guy when he and I wouldn't even call it a roar. I would have called it a yell. But it said Falkor roaring when he goes after the bullies at the end when he's just a dude screaming.
Yeah. You also got very excited for the first of the 2 gates.
When I was a young lad, so he has to get through these gates to get to the Southern Oracle and ask her like what to do about the childlike empress. And the 2 gates are these sphinxes with large bosoms.
And Ryan said, "Yeah, the boobs." When we were watching.
Because I remember being able to watch it when I was a kid, and like my mom didn't say anything, and I was just like, "Boobs! Oh wow, this is exciting!" Like I just remember being like, "There they are! They're great!" And then Tara was like, "You were remarking on like the size and the."
They're very well endowed.
They're not
perfectly round.
Yes, that's the part I was gonna say. They're perfectly round. But it was just like, it just brought back memories as like a early middle school, late elementary school, like, like when I saw them.
Talking about the sadness part, because it is throughout the whole film. Then when he comes back to the guy who eats the rocks.
The rock biter.
Yes, when he's like, they look like good, strong hands.
It's such...
But I couldn't hold on to them.
The rock biter's story about his hands, honest to God, is up there with the, 127 men went down with the U.S. Indianapolis. Only 13 of us came back. Sharks got the rest. It was this great monologue where he's like, they look like good, strong hands. I couldn't hold them. My friends, the nothing took them. I'm like,
and he repeats, they look like good, strong hands.
He is so times. Defeated. That's the movie. The movie is just him trying to do something defeated. Everybody's and it's, this interesting fantasy world, so that you kind of don't think about that. But rewatching it, we were just like, this is so depressing. Yeah. And when we got to that speech, I was like, and then the end is he gets back, the nothing has taken everything. Fantasia is just a bunch of floating rocks.
Yeah, on meteors, essentially.
Yes. And they find the ivory tower. Is it called the ivory tower? Because there's a term up in your ivory tower.
But it's something tower.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they go find the childlike empress. And Atreyu's trying to talk to her. And Atreyu's yelling at her. And
but this time I appreciated his yelling.
Because she's like, you had to go on this adventure, and we have to wait for you to tell. He's like, what are you talking about?
He goes, my horse died, I nearly drowned, and I barely escaped the nothing. And he's like, if you knew that this Earth boy had to give you a new name, why did you make me do all that? And that was when I finally appreciated the yelling, because I was like, I agree with you.
But by the end, it's her pleading to the camera, please, Bastian, why won't you do this? And he's like, this is...
And they call him an Earthling, which we were like...
It feels like they're aliens, and it feels like she's a human. Because the other thing is, she's supposed to... In the book, it's the idea is she is childlike. She's not a child. She has existed since Fantasia or in the book, it's Fantastica.
I see.
Has existed, and she still just looks like a child.
Yeah.
And Atreyu is a green-skinned warrior whose... skin feels like grass to the touch.
Oh.
So, apparently they painted him green and took one look and go, this looks ridiculous. We're not doing this. They try to do that. So the idea of them being a human, maybe it seemed weird to shoot that scene and say human with two people who look human, you know? But either way, then she again looks down the barrel of the camera and is pleading and crying and there's a lot of that. And then after that is when the movie in the last 7 minutes gets to be hopeful.
Yeah, well, and then there's that point that you said was very meta, which I was like, what is she talking? Oh, she's talking about us.
Yeah, she's like, he doesn't realize that they've been with him since the beginning.
They've been with him with the bullies.
With the bullies in the book. And Tara goes, who's they? I'm like, us. And she was like, I don't like that.
I was like, so that.
I don't like being a part of this movie.
Yeah, and then that's when you asked me, what would you do if a book started talking to you? And
can I reply?
Yes.
She said, close it. Dig a hole. Bury it.
And then you added salt the earth.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, it was good. The other thing is we were talking about how Falkor is very worry-free, very mellow, very chill, which I think complements how wild Atreyu gets. Because Atreyu's got an okay voice, and then he's screaming, yelling, screaming for probably half of the film. And then I was joking that
I said Willie Nelson would play him if they remade him, and they'd look exactly the same as this Falkor, but they'd put the bandana and I
actually think he would be a great voice. I think
I'm gonna try and
Photoshop. Oh my god, I would love that.
So this has gone through some mini adaptations that I kind of tried to keep up with because I really like this world. There was a sequel, and I remember seeing the sequel in theaters. I think I saw it with my mom, and she hated it. The sequel is not good.
Yeah.
It does a lot of Bastian coming in. It's also all new Bastian, childlike empress, and Atreyu, because when they shot it, everyone was in their late teens.
Yeah.
So they come, and it's the whole idea that in the book he goes back and he's doing all his wishes, and he's telling the story of Fantasia, and like, but he starts losing his memories of the real world, and he becomes kind of like a malevolent ruler. It's very, and they kind of do that in the movie, but they don't really pull it off.
And you said that the book was twice as long as the first movie, but the book is really both movies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's.
I've not read the book, so I just kind of wanted to add that in there for folks who maybe.
I'd read it again if I didn't have a huge stack of books I'm already
behind
on. Yeah. It's I think I read it a few times. And then the third movie is he pulls like a baby rockbiter. There's a baby rockbiter in the second movie. He pulls baby rockbiter and like a tree creature into the real world because they couldn't afford to have like big sets and stuff, so they could film in like, again, Vancouver or wherever. Mm-hmm. And a gang of bullies who all look like Ice and what's his name and
and Hocus Pocus.
I think they actually look a little more punk, but the leader of the group is Jack Black,
which is wild.
And that's the third movie. But there was like an HBO cartoon for a while. There's apparently a recent show that was like they tried to redo it. There's been a lot of studios who have thought about redoing the movie. I don't know. You asked if there's a video game. I don't think there is. I just remember like really being interested in this stuff because I thought the world was so different.
Yeah.
And it's like Oz, where it's like, it's not like there are dwarfs and there's elves and there's this and like this is what they are. And it's the same thing you've seen. It's like nighthawks and racing snails and and luck dragons.
It's reminiscent of Labyrinth and Princess Bride. Like it has elements, or they have elements of this, vice versa. I think they are all influenced, because you got to look chronologically when things came out. But it gave me those. Yeah. It brought me to those other stories. It made me think of those other stories as I was watching it. I feel like
these are the movies that are taking up a lot of childhood trauma because it was the 80s. There was a lot of like, well, it's fantasy, so it's for a kid. And again, like we said, a lot of this is like written for kids, but then like rerunning it, we're like,
there's some heavy stuff.
It's heavy stuff. And I don't think it's heavy if you've seen the end, but.
Well, and now I want to ask you, so our first wish, I think, would be the same as Bastian's. We would want to ride Falcor. But after that, what would you...
I think I'd want to ride the Bat.
Okay. But,
or the racing snail. So I think it's a lot of like, I want to see, you know what, they should make this like a Mario Kart racing game with this movie.
So after you ride your animal of choice, what would your second wish be?
This sounds
like
extremely...
but not as an adult, as a kid.
Oh, as a kid?
I want you to go back to like what you loved as a kid or what you enjoyed as a kid, and like what would that wish be?
I think it would be hanging out with the Rockbiter. I liked the Rockbiter a lot when I was a kid, like all of them, and like him eating the rocks. I thought was really funny.
So you think your wish would be within that world, not in the real world?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really think of it like that because I think the wish he had in the real world was so like out of place. Like it's fun and it's so iconic for that movie. Because like you look at the poster is the kid is the end of the movie.
And
it's
that's
the kid
a
doing
GIF.
That.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And he does it twice. It's like, and then he does it again when he goes after the bullies.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know what my wish would be. I mean, I've got my wishes now, and it's all like, first of all, you wish for more wishes, but this is also infinite wishes.
They told him he could wish as many times as he wanted.
Right, yeah. I would wish to hang out right under those sphinxes and looking up when I was a kid. What would you wish for? You didn't have an answer asking me that question?
No, I didn't. I wanted to know your answer. I thought your answer would be kind of fun, so I didn't really think about it.
Sorry, I feel like I dropped the ball.
No, so this is like a weird thing that I always wanted, but this is just a wish I wanted as a kid, so it has nothing to do with NeverEnding Story. But I always wanted my bedroom to be like very beachy and like have a hammock in my bedroom instead of a bed, and like
do you want it to be like the Encanto rooms where you walk in and it's a beach?
Yeah. Like I used to design it like, it would have a tile floor that would be like blue that would feel like the water, and then like I had like this whole like vision of like what I would do. So that would be one of my wishes.
I feel like we didn't really cover the story. I'm trying to think of anything else. I remember when I was a kid, the Gamork. who I never knew his name, the wolf thing scared me a lot. And that was
Well,
my big trauma coming out of this.
I will say, in a lot of moments, you just see the green eyes. So I can definitely see how it's scary because you don't really know what it is. And then eventually it looks like a wolf.
Yeah. Do we have anything else we want to cover? Or do we want to give it the Mombi head rating?
I mean, we can go ahead with the rating if you want. I think we jumped all around, but I think we captured like our reactions in real time.
I cannot tell you the egg and the orange juice got the biggest reaction. Not that we didn't give a lot of other big reactions, but we were like, go back! It was like, we like almost stopped.
I was like, all I saw him put in that was the egg. I didn't, and then we did find out about the juice, but yeah.
I'm going to try one tomorrow.
Oh, God.
I'm not going to try one tomorrow.
I mean, we have the ingredients if you want to try it.
I would give this, I think going into it, I thought it was going to be a 2 Mombi head, but rewatching it and seeing, like, if you tried to watch it, like, start to finish the way I think kids watch movies now, and without, like a kid in the 80s would be fine with this, but a kid now watching this, I think it's a 4 Mombi head. Oh. I think it ranks with Return of the Oz.
I think it's a 2.
Really? You don't think all that depression and everything?
I think that some of that could really go over kids' heads. And maybe I'm wrong. Kids are very intuitive.
I think, but I don't know. Like, the movie just seems so sad to me. Like,
the movie's sad, but I don't know. Like, Return to Oz is horrifying. Like, it's actually like disturbing. There was not a moment in this, besides the horse dying, that to me was disturbing. I might go up to a 3, but I definitely wouldn't do a 4. Okay. You can do a 4. I'm between a 2 and a 3.
I think, like, for some reason, I think this affected me. Like, I think it would really affect. I'm wondering if I had I got really sad watching the horse thing. Like, I kept
saying I don't remember the parts that were sad, so I could have blocked those out. So I'll give it a 3. I think
we'll meet in the middle with a 3. That's what we'll say. We'll give this one a 3.
I think if you also too, I think kids are very intuitive. There are kids who are very empathic. So I do think in that regard, I think it could be intense.
And again, I think through. The way I watched it was I watched part of it, like I just watched it piecemeal and just like kind of like thought of it more of like there's a cool turtle monster.
Stuff. Yeah.
I saw the turtle scene a lot. I thought the turtle monster was really cool, Morla, but like I think watching it this time I'm like, God, she is depressing. Like she is a lot. But yeah, guys, that's our never-ending story.
We finally got to it.
I know we did, and well, I'm not sure what's next. We got a lot of other ones on our list. We'll get to them soon. I know next week is Chicken Little, so until next time, stay traumatized.
Take care, listeners.
Thanks for listening to Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
If you want to tell us your favorite Disney villain and why it's guest on, send us an email at trprincessdiaries@gmail.com.
Or you can send a tweet about how great Maleficent is to @TRPDiaries.
Check out our Facebook group by searching for Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast, and many more.
Wherever you hear us, please be our knight in shining armor and give us a 5-star review.
Thanks again, and until next time, remember to always live happily ever after.